So this is an unfortunate situation where police are involved and they protect their own law enforcement in a cruel act of murder. So police protected their own, and now an innocent woman is dead. This is coming out of a Miami Herald, and it's unfortunate. So here's the woman, and here's the officer. They did not have to die. That's the bitter truth. Katie Sasser and her friend John, well, actually, that's not the officer. Let me read this story. It looks like there's more involved here. Okay, so that's the bitter truth. Katie Sasser and her friend John Hall would likely still be alive if cops and prosecutors in Glenn County, Georgia, had done their jobs. But they were more interested in protecting one of their own. Okay, so it sounds like there were more than one individual that was murdered, possibly. So Sasser and Hall were shot to death in June by Sasser's estranged husband, who was the police, Robert C. Sasser. He then killed himself. Consider it the grim code to a tale or code to a tale told in this space in 2016 about the most troubling police shooting you've never heard of. It began in June of 2010 when Caroline Small, a troubled 35-year-old woman, led police on a low-speed chase after being spotted using drugs. So the dash cam video shows that they caught her and had her hemmed in. So it goes on, the story goes on. And so this is the Miami Herald and the picture blown up, basically. And so this is under Leonard Pitts Jr. And so this was a July 13, 2018. And so it's an unfortunate story because I was thinking, it's sometimes these stories are surprising because sometimes you think it's just one person that has been victimized when it in fact is more than one individual, which is an unfortunate situation in this story here that's unfolding. So the dash cam video goes on to say that the video that they had caught her showed her being hemmed in on all sides with 4 flat tires. So small rock uh, she had nowhere to go. And for no good reason whatsoever, then Sergeant Sasser in the office told Todd Simpson shot her 8 rounds, peppering her window shield. So as she lay dying, they bragged about their marksmanship. This is very sad and it's very creepy. They bragged actually about killing and murdering her. So I hit her right in the face, right on the bridge of the nose, said Sasser. Simpson waved off a former EMT who approached the car. She's dead. I shot her in the head. Her head exploded. Small died 7 days later. But that wasn't the worst of it. So in 2015, investigation by Atlanta Journal, Constitution, and WSB TV, local ABC affiliate, found that the police tampered with the crime scene, manufactured misleading evidence, and interfered with the supposedly independent investigation aided and abetted by District Attorney Jackie Johnson, who deferred to and helped the defense at every step. So as a result, Sasser and Simpson, who died of brain cancer in 2016, were cleared of wrongdoings. A civil suit was dismissed. And so I'm going to stop right there. For all the people who think that all cops are good people, that's not the case. For all the people who think that there's no such thing as bad policing, there's only a few bad apples out there. All of these are just conspiracy theories made up by Black Lives Matter. That's not the case, okay? So Where are all these all lives matter people when it comes to stuff like this? These are white people that were killing other white people. Like some people so often will say, black killing black. Well, you have whites that kill whites, and even the police involved in it. That's what this story is about. Talking about white on white crime, but this was calculated. They bragged about killing these people and covered it up. So I've lost many nights of sleep over it, David Patterson, a former prosecutor in Johnson's office, told the AJC. This was a murder and it was a cover up. It shouldn't have happened. It was wrong. And as noted, unless you live in the region, you probably never heard of this case. That's because Small was white. Yes, let me say that again. These were white people. As such, she does not fit comfortably into the national debate on police brutality, of course, right? Dominated as it is by African Americans like Philando Castile and Tamir Rice and Freddie Gray. But as I pointed out 2 years ago, although African Americans bear the brunt of our refusal to demand accountability for police misbehavior, unchecked power ultimately has no racial loyalties. That's what they're saying here. But I still will waver on that part. I will say, to add, that I feel like a larger percentage of African Americans usually fall victim to this. But it's not to go without saying that whites can't fall victim to this, and other races of people can't fall victim to this. And this twist of a story, it happens to be white people. But as I pointed out, it goes on to say in this article, out of the 2 years ago, although African Americans bear the brunt of our refusal to demand accountability for police misconduct, unchecked power ultimately has no racial loyalties. That's what they say. In a way, that's what they're saying, is that it can happen to other people, of course. So the British historian Lord Acton famously put it like this: power tends to corrupt. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. So Sasser got away with murder because of that corrupted power, because it closed ranks and looked the other way. Heck, he even got a promotion on top of all of this. Apparently, no one thought to ask whether the two men who could callously execute a woman who posed no threat were fit to be police officers. Apparently, no one wondered if maybe they should be in prison. In May, Sasser was arrested for domestic violence. So a few days later, he tried to assault a fellow officer after a 9-hour standoff during which he was suicidal. Last month, he murdered Katie Sasser and John Hall, both. And maybe none of it would have happened had anyone done right by Small, had they not placed law enforcers above the law itself. May every cop and prosecutor wrestle with the lessons of that failure. May every individual who thinks police brutality is something Black people made up realize that under unchecked power, no one is safe. So I agree with that. And may every person who failed Caroline Small meet her in their dreams. Okay. And so there's another story that came out about a chief that wanted perfect stats. And so he was told to pin crimes on Black people. And so that's what a probe found. And so for arrest in civil rights case, Florida police chief touted perfect crime solving rate. So he used to tout this. And so that's a separate issue. But that's just to show you another situation as well, that all police are not what you think they are. I'm not saying that every police officer is bad, but not everyone is all good either. And so this article is but one of many that executes that point. in a good fashion, that is. Okay, so here's the title, and here's the victims up here. And this is by Leonard Pitts Jr. So what are your thoughts and feedback and comment on this? And so I've said this before. Also, I've done some extensive reading about some of the stats of unchecked um, brutal authority of police by some of the numbers of killings. And I've found some disturbing information on that as well, that went on to express that law departments, or, well, police departments rather, can voluntarily uh, bring in numbers of stats, whether or not they want to, in terms of how many people were killed based on unarmed arrest, people that are unarmed, and unarmed arrest. And then there was another term for it too, people who are, I can't think of that term, but in other words, these are people who are gunned down by the police. And there's, I guess they have like data that they're supposed to collect. And they don't have to necessarily release that from those departments. And so that poses a problem. And so that is very problematic in and of itself, because the data that people usually get, it isn't always dead on correct. But there is one thing that they can be sure of: the larger amounts of killings have been more the focus on Black males, and not only Black males, Black people. A lot of it points to, in the article that I was looking at, it pointed to, or the statistical data that I was looking at pointed to more the issue of biases, personal bias. And so that's a whole nother story in and of itself, but it was pretty disturbing. And so it made it seem as though there was more the issue in law enforcement learning more tactics of how to de-escalate a situation, and how to deal with populations of people based on their own personal biases, without using that in their job, and pretty much stretching their power to abuse people simply because they have whatever their personal views or whatever. So it's supposed to be to protect and serve, so that not building too much trust in the community and making people afraid, or either not really trusting law enforcement anymore. So those were the issues that were brought up. But anyway, what are your thoughts on this? This is a twist of a story, and there are probably many other stories like this out there, of course, but it isn't brought up as much. But these happen to be white people who the police actually murdered these two people and covered it up. And the guy got a promotion. The guy that murdered the woman and the man up top, he got a promotion. And then the story goes on. You can read it for yourself, but it's very scary. It just tells you right there that, you, like, once again, you just don't know. You almost don't know who to trust. And so you have to be very careful. And they actually bragged about killing this woman. They bragged about it. Thank you for listening. Like, comment, feedback, and thanks once again for listening.